I don't really vape like that. But when I do, it's to take a shit. If you don't know the concept of Nick shits, okay, you're missing out. You gotta get on that. Okay, you gotta utilize what's out there. I just think it's quite arrogant / ignorant to think that, like, okay, obviously you learn things over time, right? And so looking at looking at the human species as, like, one organism, it would make sense, I suppose, that it didn't figure out exactly what the fuck was going on and exactly what it should be here for until, until it's, adolescence, which you could say was maybe, 2,000 years ago or some shit. Or like, well, yeah, I guess, like, yeah, fucking 2,000 years ago or whatever. I feel like we're relatively adult age now. I'm not sure though. It's quite relative, it's quite undefinable. But to think that we were living for thousands of years and we were just completely lost. We were just completely fucking dumbfounded when it came to where we came from, what we're doing here, how to live, until a certain guy came along or a certain group of guys came along and then all of a sudden had all the answers, right? I do believe in God fully. I don't believe in Christianity. I don't believe in it's serviceable to be more specific. I believe in Christianity. I believe in religion kind of as a tool rather than like a 100%, completely infallible fucking just textbook to life, right? It makes a lot more sense as, we reached our adolescence, we reached what the fuck was going on, we learned how to live, and then we put that shit in a book. But it's very, very well known that we also get corrupt sometimes, we also get misguided sometimes, we deceive each other sometimes, and so to all of a sudden not apply that, is just kind of ignorant. And to be to be exposed and indoctrinated into a certain belief system, and out of the billions of people and thousands of years that we've been here, to think that you have the correct one is just arrogant as fuck. Plain and simple. Arrogant and ignorant, because, how can you think you have all the answers? I think you can be on the path to getting all the answers, but to think that you have all the answers is just, it's not about that, bro. It's not about the, destination. You don't gotta have all the answers, bro. You just gotta be on the right track. To deny the plausibility that we figured it out before we had Christianity or Catholicism is just craziness. There were hundreds of different cultures all throughout the world, all living their life, all very spiritually connected. And to just deny them their own authority to determine what's going on and what's the correct way to live, that's just not very nice, number one. I have a lot of respect for what I've seen of indigenous cultures. I have hella respect for. I really wish I could be fully immersed in a indigenous culture of some sort, because I admire how grounded they are in the physicalities and tying that back to, the big picture, big spirituality. It almost seems like, because I went to a Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade. My family was Catholic. My dad's side is Christian, my mom's side is Catholic. And, from all the things that I've learned, and just all the people that I've talked to, because I've talked to a lot of Mormons and shit too, there's just a lot of things that are inherently denied. My experience in Christian and Catholicism, kind of communities, like, why do we put ourselves above animals and disconnect ourselves from, like, the earthly process? Like, all this talk, all this mission of serving God, serving God, serving God, serving Jesus. What is that? That's just where we come from. That's the creator, right? So we should be serving the earth. We should be serving the natural process that provides us the ability to even fucking live. Like, that's God. Just, like, keep the fucking flow of shit going. And, like, that's not really focused on, prioritized. Like, it's kind of just like a human to human type thing, and then human to God, and, like, we don't really define God a lot. We define God as this, like, crazy creator fucking, but we don't really, like, say what God does, like, or what God is. And, like, the notion that he's undefinable would make sense. But this is what I was talking about how I respect indigenous cultures, is because they see the creator still related to and grounded in physical nature. Like, Mother Earth and such. That's a way to define God as something we can actually service. And it is true that it created us. I'm still grappling with a lot of things, but I think yin and yang is fucking amazing. I find myself applying yin and yang to fucking literally everything. And it makes sense too. That's, like, literally what it means. I mean, again, I don't deny ignorance as a rite of passage. I think that also goes in part with yin and yang. That, like, yeah, at one point you think you have all the answers, and then at one point you think you don't know shit. I think the healthiest way to achieve a middle ground is to learn from physical nature. As I was talking about with, Mother Nature and shit being God. That's exactly what I mean. Physical nature is the best teacher. That's what God is. Just kind of the nature of things. And there's so much to learn from the nature of things. Again, like, a lot of people think, or a lot of people say, reality is often weirder than fiction. So to think that you can define it in a book, and that those rules, just to think that you had it all, at one point, it's destined to kind of leave you stagnant. I think we would benefit a lot from appreciating ourselves, the fact that we can have a good grip on what shit is about, but not deny ourselves the possibility to learn more and the possibility to be wrong. I think a lot of my kind of issue with Catholicism and Christianity is a lot of it is fear-based. And God teaches you to not be afraid. God tells you not be afraid. I don't know why we hear God say that and then conclude, okay, we need to be afraid of living this way because it says it in the book. Like, go test it for yourself. That's how you really get faith. That's why I'm so confident in my connection to God and my connection to Source. It's because I test it daily. It's a beautiful thing to be confident, be committed, to your belief systems. But once your commitment to it is out of fear that if you ever step out, you're gonna be, like, fucking literally shot in the head by Mother Earth, that's a problem, bro. Mother Earth loves you. God loves you. Source loves you. And so, like, you do have the freedom. You have free will. You have the freedom to go experiment with other ideas. Like, you will. That is your home. That is where you came from. You will always have the possibility to go back to God, go back to Source. And they preach that shit in the Bible, but then they forget it whenever there's an argument. When I had the little side quest of talking to the Mormons, I honestly, like, I don't know if I agree with all of Mormonism, But the like 2 to 5 guys that I was talking to every like twice a week or whatever, dude, they're good guys, man. They know what the fuck is up, bro. But there's this fear, there's this horrible fear of like going outside of what we did before. Oh, we're gonna like, bro, take a chill pill. God loves you, bro. Like, he's not gonna fucking stomp you out if you look away for 5 seconds. Obviously, it doesn't mean go kill baby and then think that you're okay. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, like, if someone is trying to, like, kind of like my last video, if someone is trying to educate you, that doesn't mean you have to adopt what they're telling you. But intake that information and derive whatever, lesson you can from it. You can make service out of a lot of different things. And I was kind of telling these Mormon guys, like, I want you to have more respect for God. Like, bro, think about fucking God for a minute, bro. This force, this power, this source is so massive. And, like, at least for Christianity and Catholicism, they paint it as incomprehensible. Right? A lot of their excuses for shit is like, oh, well, you can't understand God's power, da 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 da. Right? I somewhat like believe that. Yeah, you can't, like, God is so constantly teaching you things that you thought you already knew and da 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 da. Right? You'll never fully understand shit. But if you're gonna paint it as this incomprehensible God, then why do you think that you know Him so well? Through something human made. I mean, that's kind of where you get into like arguments, whether it's human made. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if God is so vast, why the fuck would this sect of people only know the true answer? Like, you're telling me God is so fucking vast. He created this entire world. He created you. He created your nervous system. He created, like, grass and plants and how they interact with each other, and space and galaxies, and you're telling me the most efficient way for him to fucking communicate is through a fucking book? What? Have some more respect for your creator, dude. He's bigger than that. He's much bigger than that, dude. He talks to everyone in a million different ways. I can go sit on the fucking circus carousel over there, bro, and somehow derive a lesson from God. Like, dude, he's everything. He's the biggest, like, he's the source of everything, dude. You cannot ignore him. You cannot see him. You cannot not see him. You cannot not hear him. Outside of your decision. If your decision is to listen to God, if your decision is to see God in something, you will. The only time you won't be able to hear him or see him is if you are choosing not to. And they kind of, I imagine actually most Catholics and Christians would kind of agree with that, but then you don't apply it to anything outside of your fucking religion, dude. The religion is a structure. The religion is an organization, dude. Yes, it's real, but it's not contained. Have more respect for your God that he's not going to be fucking contained in this, like, human-made organization of lessons and whatever. Like, he's an eternal giving being, eternal loving being. He'll love you through literally anything. And so he will communicate to you in ways you will not understand. He will communicate to you in ways outside of a fucking book, outside of a fucking, church session, like, and trust me, I love, bro, are you fucking nasty ass fucking truck? Like I was saying, very nice, Ram 1500, very nice. Trust me, I love the aspect of, church communities and gathering and singing and praying together, and like all that stuff is extremely valid and extremely powerful. But like I said, with the indigenous communities, fostering a more zoomed out connection with God, in relation to like just earth and human nature and all that, it's also extremely powerful, and I feel like you'll have an even more unbeatable connection with God through that way. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, love you guys, and have a wonderful day.